like to keep my team small, so I need to rely a lot on automation and those kind of things that can help me scale. Because although the number of employees, number of sites, number of countries grew, you cannot just double your headcount, because if your organization becomes too big, you will spend all your time managing people, not managing the experience of the end users. Embrace the future. You cannot stop technology. It's coming no matter what you do. You have to embrace this. And this is the new way of operations. People are looking at speed and efficiency and scalability. So you can actually do extraordinary things with it if you embrace the technology.
Welcome to the new automation mindset, where AI, automation, and integration come together. I'm your host, Markus Zirn, and as Chief Strategy Officer and part of the founding executive team at Workato, it is my mission to find these top innovators in AI, automation, and integration and share their journeys with all of you. This podcast is inspired by the Wall Street Journal best-selling book with the same title, written by Workato CEO Vijay Tella. If you would like a free copy of the book, be sure to listen for a special offer at the end of today's episode. So today I have as my guest Stanley Toe, and Stanley is the head of enterprise end user experience and services at Broadcom. So Broadcom is a long-time Workato customer, has multiple really powerful new automation mindset projects. And as always, we will use the book, The New Automation Mindset, with its process, growth, and scale mindset as the compass for this conversation. So really wanted to start off with you, Stanley. Let's kick this out. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know one thing I learned was that you actually started your career teaching COBOL. So how, from back then to today, how did your career journey unfold? And, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for having me, Markus. And if I tell you the whole story, then people can guess how long I have been doing this. No one, the new generation never even heard of COBOL. What is COBOL? What are they talking about? Okay, so, back in the days, right, when programming is still line by line, I was actually I was teaching at Western Michigan University, and COBOL programming was the basic back then, the programming code, right? And then from COBOL programming as a lecturer, in the U.S., I'm from Asia. And my parents say, "You're too far away from home, come back." So I went back to Singapore, and from there I started with HP. And in HP, I was doing a lot of business processes, our production line, try to improve the production line and supporting business application, what we can do to help them be more efficient. And in that role, I actually developed self-service capabilities for the financial analysts. Instead of calling IT for help all the time, now the financial analysts can do their own processing, but with guardrails, right? Because when you do anything with them, you do not want to give them full access. You just want to give them access to do what they need to do and what they are entitled to do. So started with that, and then I moved on to actually the support services. And I found that, I like the support area, engaging with all the end users, not just a group, but now you have the entire company, right? So I was in the help desk area for a while, and then it grew. And then we have, from there, we have a spin-off from HP. They spin off Agilent, which is the life science and semiconductor. So I went over to the Agilent side, and then I became the global service desk manager then. And then from there was a divestiture. And we became Avago in 2006, and I joined Avago. And in Avago, the roles expanded. And then over time, right, Avago grew to the size we are right now. And right now, I own actually the entire end user services and experience. So from identity management to all the collaboration suite to employee productivity and technology to the entire support, user support organization, end user communication, audit, compliance, M&A, those kind of things. So over time, it just grew.
Wow, so you've seen a lot. So and introduce a little bit. So right now you're managing that whole end user experience and services at Broadcom. Maybe give the audience a little feel of Broadcom, the context, the scope of your work domain, and then the responsibilities also. I think one thing that we all know, Broadcom makes a lot of acquisitions. Right.
Yes,
what does that mean? What does that mean for your job?
Okay. So Broadcom is right now a hardware semiconductor and also a software company. So it has a good mix, right? And like you say, we do a lot of acquisition. So the journey started in 2006 when we got divested from Agilent, and that was just a semiconductor. And then we start acquisition. And, I'm going to just name the major acquisition, or else we're going to, sit here the whole day going through the list. So in 2014, we started with LSI, right? When we started Avago, we have 3,000 employees. Then we started acquiring LSI, and employee grew. Then we acquired Brocade. And then in 2016, we acquired Broadcom Corporation, and we retained the name. And when we acquired Broadcom, our employee doubled, right? And then we acquired CA in 2018 and 2019, Symantec. Once again, employee doubled. So now we are about 20,000. And then just last year, we acquired VMware, and now we more than doubled. Now we are 50,000. So in this role, right, this not only the portfolio expanded, but the breadth of the scope also expanded, because now you have more and more users and they have more and more needs. But the thing that we do is I like to keep my team small. So I need to rely a lot on automation, on what do you call that? Gen AI, chatbot, and those kind of things that can help me scale. Because although the number of employees, number of sites, number of countries, grew, you cannot just double your headcount, because if your organization become too big, you will spend all your time managing people, Markus, not managing the experience of the end users, right? You'll end up managing people. And that's not what I want my team to do. I want them to give people the best experience, the most efficient way that a user can achieve what they want to achieve without spending time looking for someone to help them. That's the goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is really interesting, right? So you're there, you're supporting the employees, you're trying to, run everything with, have a small team, right? To run a big organization, and that organization keeps growing and growing and growing. It doesn't grow. It isn't like Cisco that acquired like small little company. We're talking like big acquisitions, like doubling here, adding, starting in hardware and then adding software like CA. CA is like a huge company, was a huge company on its own, right? VMware
about
was
10,000, yes.
About 10,000. Symantec is a very well-known big companies. And so you're Give us a little frame of reference. What are we looking at? So I think Broadcom, how many people now? How many employees? It should be about 50,000?
Nearly
50,000. How big's your team? How big is your team?
Don't get shocked. 41, including myself.
41. Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's leverage. I mean, that's total leverage. So your mission in a way is to, how can I get leverage out of
Correct.
Technology to make that the whole company, not just IT, but the whole company efficient in a way, all the employees of the company. So do you have any secret sauce of how you're making that? I know you always look at new technology. I think I think that's one of the things you love. I think as you said, you love doing it with technology, self-service, even back in the HP days, right? How can I do self-service? What's at the core of your mission? Like, how do you make this work?
So there's a few things that you have to look for, right? The first thing is changing people's mindset. When I read the book, right, Automation Mindset, it actually resonated with me, right? It's all about changing the mindset. And if you look at it, a lot of business processes are very complicated. And when you acquire different company, they come in with different processes. And then most enterprise, what they will do is they will actually customize and adopt those multiple processes. But then it will become very inefficient. What you need to do is you simplify your business process, right? You ask the people, why do you do it that way? Do you need to do it that way? Right? Why take 5 steps when you can do it in 3? Right? So we simplify all the processes. And the other thing is, Markus, we have one global processes. You cannot have custom processes for everybody. Yes. I'm in end user experience, but I'm going to say this. Every user is going to think they are special, but they are not, right? They can adopt to one process. So we are very religious in that way that we have one global process and it's standard across. Like in Broadcom, we have one ERP. We are hardware and software, but we have one ERP. When we acquired Symantec, they have 2 ERPs. When we acquired VMware, they have 7. They have Oracle and SAP, but we consolidate that all to one Oracle. And we did it in 23 weeks, 5 months and a couple of weeks, right? If you can look at technology, everyone will have multiple technology to do one thing, and it overlaps. We consolidate all to one. No, you know that there are many workflow automation out there, all right? And when we acquire a company, they may be using something else, but we consolidate them all to Workato. We use one platform. The reason why me and my team is doing that is because if you look at it, if I have one platform, I only need one team. Because if you have multiple platforms, you need multiple team because you have multiple technology. You need to train people in all the multiple platforms. Then you are not able to scale. You are just adding more people because your platform increases. But if you consolidate all to one, right, you have one platform and you have one team and one SME. So it's not only simplification of the processes, but consolidating the processes so that you are able to scale.
Mm-hmm. I also remember, it sticks in my mind when we started working together. Now we're going back to I don't know when it was, 2017, 18, something like that. I remember what stuck in my mind was that your CIO back then told me, he said, like, look, Markus, at Broadcom, we're looking for speed. So
Yes.
like, if you can't give us a first result in 4 weeks, we're just not going to do it. If this isn't implemented in 6 to 8 weeks, forget it. I'm not going to take on a project that has like a 6 months, 8 months project duration. It's just not going to happen. And I think what it probably means, it's almost like you're self-selecting cloud first technologies, right?
We are cloud first. Yes. That's one of our mantra.
Tell us a little bit about that speed. How is that important for you guys in your organizations, and how do you look at that? Because some people would just be okay with doing a 10 months project, but it seems like at Broadcom you want results much, much faster.
Yes, we want better, faster. Right now, the cloud first mantra is, if you look at it, right, if I have a SaaS service, the SaaS provider will actually support everything from me, from infrastructure to the platform to all the patching, the upgrades, feature functionality. If I bring it all in-house, I need another team to take care of the infrastructure. And then infrastructure always have maintenance. Then you have your maintenance team. On top of that, you have your developers. Then they have to do upgrades. They have to do feature sets and things like that. But if it's cloud first, I move that problem to you, Markus. You take care of that for me.
Right? Yeah. It's always. It's really funny because our head of product, he always complains. He says, Markus, these customers, they come and, especially in financial services, they always go, it needs to be on premise. That's what we need. And he said, they don't understand. I used to do software back in the days of on-premise. It was so much easier for us. Now we're doing all this extra work and nobody seems to appreciate it. But I think you guys do. I think you're seeing the value and you're making really good use of it. That's great.
You can tell him we really appreciate him. So the other one is, if you go cloud first, is also scalability, ease of scaling, right? If you look at it, every acquisition, we double in the workforce. So that means your processing volume, your runtime will increase too. If it's all on-prem, that means I have to order in more servers. I need to plug it in. I need more space in the data center. I need to configure them because I need the horsepower. But, right now I just call the Workato sales guy and say, hey, we are doing this acquisition. We're going to need this much more runtime. And then you guys take care of me. It's scalability. Ease of scalability.
Ease of scalability. Speed of implementation and then ease of scalability both go together. Let's dive a little bit into the details. So, like with Workato, what kind of projects have you done? Like very specifically, like in end user experience and services. Share a little bit with the audience. Like how has that helped you?
Do we have the whole day?
Well, let's just pick the three most important.
Okay.
Yeah, pick a few, like the ones that stand out for you.
Okay. So the first one, if you look at it, right, people call IT for service provisioning. And that is the first, area that we tackle. I can tell you 95% of our service provisioning, IT service provisioning, that means requesting for new accounts, removing accounts, adding, add, change, delete, those kind of requests, 95% is fully automated. All right. So the onboarding is always big. When a new employee comes on, there are so many services, entitled services that they need to request. There's also laptop, physical product that they need to request. what we do is we automate onboarding fully end to end, so that when the manager put in a request in Workday, that's when it kickstarts. So you do all the pre-hiring, and then when the offer is made, they are hired. Everything from there on is automated. The managers don't even have to request for anything, because if you want a manager to request, they will always forget, Marcus, because people don't hire all the time. It's not muscle memory. So you may forget this, may forget that, but we automate that and make it so simple. They just need to click a button to approve. Everything is done for them on the back end. All right. So onboarding. Onboarding is easy. The hard part is offboarding, because you have normal offboarding, you have a scheduled offboarding, you will have urgent termination. Different country may have different garden leave requirement. So we also work all of those into automation. Offboarding is fully automated. When the Workday flag an employee is terminated, within 2 minutes, all access is being terminated. All right. And we even go to that extent that there's an automation triggered to the the device management. We can even lock your machine and change the password when it comes online. Right. So that is one of the major one. And when I say onboarding is such a powerful automation, this is especially true when you are doing M&A. Back in the days when we first acquired Brocade and LSI and Broadcom before automation, we used to sit in the room. Everyone have Excel spreadsheet going on. They do the merging and this and that, and then they do the loading to create accounts. Right? We are in there in the war room for days. But now it's all fully automated. With a click of the button, everything is being done what the human used to do. And we onboarded 39,000 employees for VMware day one. You know how long it took? 3 days. The reason why it took 3 days is every employee have a set of entitlements. So they may have, 20, 30 services each. So if you times 39,000 employees times, let's say, average 20 entitlement, you can see how many processes it has to run. And we did all that in less than 72 hours.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
I remember also there was a project that you guys did, with the COVID times, right? We all sat at home. Obviously, you have hardware, so not everybody can sit at home. It's not the luxury of software, right? And you did some, you basically, with Workato, you did, again, one of these Broadcom, very agile, fast projects. You implemented some COVID tracking also.
Yes.
You want to talk about this one? Because I thought that was really interesting also because of how quickly, you adapted to these new situations.
So we roll out a contact tracing app, right? And the contact tracing app, if we are within 6 feet of each other for a 5 minutes period, it will exchange a token. And let's say, knock on wood, if I'm tested positive, I go to the app, I report I'm positive. And it will auto trigger you, because we were in close contact, to say that you have been exposed. Right? That is only one portion. But who else needs to know? Because remember then, the regulators were very strict. We have to report to HR. HR need to report to the county, right? So we have what do you call that? Workato auto trigger. Let's say if I report positive, it will auto trigger, notify all the HR, the necessary HR people, right? But if you look at it, Marcus, I'm in 52 countries. There will be different regional HR. I need to know where the exposure is coming from, which HR to notify, and which regulators to notify. And if you do manual work, manually do that, it's going to take you hours just to do one report. But with automation, even if we have 10 cases a day, it's fully automated, it's fully triggered without human intervention. And the other thing on this is it's not only automation, it's also security. Because you don't need a human expose all the PII data to a human to validate, right? It's all in the back end. Automation takes care of it, notify only the correct people. And that is key to PII because, with all the regulators and things like that, this is extremely important, right? But if you want to talk about scale, Marcus, we have a very interesting project that we are currently working with your team. Okay. You know that people like Slack, Google Spaces, Microsoft Teams, they have groups of thousands of people in one conversation channels, and people talk about anything, everything. And a lot of them could be not related to work. It could be political, it could be financial advice, or it could be a health advice. And knock on wood, if someone take the health advice and then something happened, they can actually sue your company, Marcus, because they got the advice from your company platform. So we are and you cannot have moderators doing this because there are thousands of conversation going on all the time. So we're working with Workato to create a moderator, an automated moderator that will go out and listen, and it catches all these keywords and things that are out of policy. It will start flagging, and it will actually tag, warn, or remove the conversation, right? So human cannot do that because how many people you need to just sit there, do nothing, and just monitoring chats is going to be impossible. But to a machine, it doesn't matter, right?
And so this is a combination with generative AI,
yes,
and Workato recipes,
yes,
then. Okay.
and LLM, right? Because you guys are integrated with Chat GPT.
That's right.
Right. So I think this is going to be a very interesting project.
It's fascinating. I mean, first of all, just thinking about what you told us, right? The impact you have on the company, it's actually mission critical stuff. So you empower the business to be able to execute on these acquisitions. Some people might say like, oh, you look, integrating a company like VMware, that's too complicated. It's too hard. You can't do it. Like you said, like, okay, well, onboarding the new employee done in 3 days, all fully automated. So we have that muscle. We're able to digest whatever you throw at us in terms of an acquisition. We can do it. Then you gave that example with the COVID, the tracking app.
With security.
With security. And then in a way, to me, this means like you made it possible for the company to like comfortably, like with the right confidence, bring people back in the office and do so quickly. And that actually means, every day, any day that you cannot bring the employees back to the office is time lost, right? It's and so you basically made it possible for Broadcom to continue in a very difficult environment, but all these things were done. That's very important. And then last but not least, you mentioned that example of where there are legal challenges, where maybe the company is at risk for getting sued and so on. And so you're able to deal with that and handle those risks. And I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, it's not something, typically when you talk about the IT help desk, you kind of go like, yeah, all right, that's one of those things. But really, you kind of showed 3 examples that really mean a lot, even to the CEO to do what Broadcom needs to do. It's actually really cool.
But we cannot do all this by ourselves, right? It's not me. You need a team of dedicated people and the support of your partners like Workato, or else you cannot achieve this.
And it's also, I mean, look, it's cool. You always talk about making use of technology to scale. The last example there with the moderation of the group chats and so on, that very much is another example that shows like, hey, you're ready to take on this new generative AI and the LLMs and so on, and weave it into your business processes. And again, I mean, I think that's also an example where, if we're honest with each other, you could not achieve that with Workato alone, right? You really need that LLM, but at the same time, that LLM almost unleashes a whole new potential of what Workato now can automate, which is really cool. It's another step up. Really fascinating. Look, so I think these are great examples, great projects. I'm sure the audience is listening in here and say like, okay, well, maybe they have similar ideas. They want to do that. Given that you've done these projects with Workato, I'm just looking for some advice for the audience to be equally successful. And so I'm thinking back to, if you think back to where you started your career with coding COBOL, right? Now you got a low-code platform like Workato. I'm actually really curious, like, what do you think changed, and maybe also what hasn't changed, what remains the same, and then how, any recommendations for the audience to have equal success with Workato projects?
Okay, so what changed is the coding. Remember, thousands of lines, line by line, alphabet by alphabet. You have to type it out. But right now is drag and drop, right? So that changed. The time to code is almost nothing. But 2 things that is very important, that since then and now in Workato, that has not changed. Number 1 is your process. You need to understand your process. I make sure that my team, before they start any coding in Workato, is draw out the workflow. Once you have the workflow, you can see what is needed, what access, what system you need to connect to, right? And if your flow makes sense. If you look at it, decoding then and now, right? Then you really need to know each syntax to use. But now you spend 85% refining your process, make it even more efficient. The coding is about 15%. It's a time save if you have the right process. And then the beauty is, if you have an old coding process, it can be actually applied to the modern coding process, right? So that's one of it. If you want to be successful, make sure you draw out your workflow. The second thing is make it modular. Don't make one long workflow. If you look at it, a lot of them can be reused, modularized, and be reused. So you do multiple recipes and each doing very specific task. Then you have a master recipe that call upon these modules, and it will make it so much more, what do you call that, efficient. So those two things has not changed since those days.
Yeah, I think. Look, this is very important, and I wanted to just to reinforce what you said to the audience, because I talked to another customer of ours just a couple of weeks back, and he told me, he says, like, look, Markus, you told us it's low code, it's really easy to implement, and you validated that, Stanley, right? You said the coding is got really easy, and it says like so we thought, we can always change it. So we didn't really put the effort in the beginning to think it through, because we just put something in and then we thought we'll just iterate later. Don't do that. Do not do that. I think it is. I think with something like Workato, really what changes is the distribution of work. The coding part will shrink. And I think what the audience should know is that what you use is the requirements analysis, the understanding the process to really think through what you build. Do not shrink that time. Do it like you used to. I mean, you can always later adjust, but if you start with something that's too far away from what's ideal, it'll take you long. It'll take time again. So I think the upfront part is. We
Building.
can't. Workato can't take that away. It's really important. Having the same flow charts that you probably had when you coded COBOL. You still
many
need
moons
those.
ago.
Yeah, you still need those. I mean, this is what the book also says, is like really have that process mindset and think about the process, and then, as you said, consolidate the process into one for everyone. Think it through, simplify it. That upfront work you gotta do. But then you have the benefit you have now. Once you've done that, actually getting that into production, that should be much faster than it ever was.
Much faster, exactly.
Much faster.
And then if you modularize it, you can reuse it. So one of the things that we also do, Markus, is I make sure that my team have a recipe library. Everything is properly documented so that people know what is for, and you can reuse the module instead of rebuilding. That is where you save time.
Yeah. No, this is good. This is super helpful. So some parts of that development work, they remain the same. I mean, I think your good documentation and your upfront requirements and other things, they change, like the coding and so on. That
Exactly.
That gets simplified. So let's think about it. Let's try to abstract that a little bit. If you think of a platform like Workato, and you would tell people if they're thinking of using that in a company, how do you segment the opportunity that there is? If you generalize the value you can bring to the organization, like how would you maybe put that into buckets? And then maybe the other thing is also, you mentioned one example where an LLM, generative AI, gets introduced. Maybe how does adding an LLM to your automations, how does that maybe evolve the opportunities that there are with something like a Workato?
Okay. So first of all, when you want to, if you're new to this and want to implement workflow automation, is always look for tasks that are repetitive. If it's a one-off, put that aside first. Go for the big hitters, high volume. Day in, day out is always the same. Do that first, right? So put that in one bucket. Those are your easy win that can show results immediately. If you can reduce, 1,000 human hours approving or creating a new account, right? That is an easy win. Then the second thing is, with all the new technology coming, right? Adding LLM into to the workflow, you can actually do intent moderation. That is the next big thing that we are looking at. How to add the new features, technology that are out there, combined with automation to deliver even better scalability and efficiency.
It's interesting that you say that, Stanley. So I talked the other day to another customer. It's actually in the finance organization, and we talked about automation. I think you mentioned the initial thing, like, get all the basically reducing manual work, like simplifying the steps down. And he said, "Yep, we'll do that, and we can, we have a lot of data in finance, and we can simplify that." He said then is like, "Look, now everyone talks about generative AI and the LLMs." He says, like, when I post to my journal, I don't want the LLM involved, because I may not know exactly what will happen. That needs to be reliable. That has to be automated the old-fashioned way. It's got to really work, and almost like work like a robot, right? But what's interesting now, and I think that is similar to your example with the moderation, is he said, like, I can look, what the LLMs are really good for is I can catch exception situations. I can actually now automate things that are not as high volume and maybe low complexity as the other ones that I automated before. Now I can actually do maybe the lower volume, higher complexity situations where, I'm identifying an exception situation through the LLM, and now I can do a very deliberate action and automation on those. So I have a feeling that through the LLMs, the breadth of what can be automated is actually increasing significantly. I don't know if that makes sense. You feel the same way?
It totally makes sense, right? Like I said earlier, right? The best bucket of automation used to be all the repetitive stuff, without exception. It's always day in, day out, the same thing. Put that in one bucket. Those are your easy win. Finish that. Now, LLM will be very advantageous especially in the support area, or in the chatbot area, or in where, like you say, exception, where the question or the intent comes about very differently. Every case will be different. That's when LLM can help to understand what is the actual problem and apply the correct recipe to resolve it. So it will be excellent in the support area, because although let's say if I call the help desk and I'm reporting I'm having a network issue, the way I report and the way you report may be different. Automation itself will not be able to handle that. But if you couple in LLM, then I understand now that it's a network issue and this is the recipe to apply to. So for exceptions, yes. For complex cases that may have the intent, the way the intent is stated will be different. Yeah, that will be a big help. That's why we're pretty excited to see where the moderator bot will take us.
That is cool. So one other area, I don't know, I know we didn't deep dive into that one because you've done so much with Workato, but some people, obviously Workato is one way to automate. Another way to automate things is also just purchase a specialized application of sorts, right? what's interesting with Workato, it gives you that workflow ability, the recipe, but it also lets you tap into all your existing applications that you have. It had that connectivity, the integration. And so what we see some of our customers get value from is also that Workato gives them a better way to leverage their existing applications. And one of the things, for example, people tell us, it lets them actually maybe pick applications that are less specialized, less expensive also, and complement them with Workato in ways so that they can actually lower the cost of the entire application portfolio. Does that make sense? I mean, I think you guys had also some example of that, right?
Yeah. But on top of that, what I want to add, Markus, is with all the connectors that Workato has, right, I do not need to change my current business processes to be able to utilize the platform, right? So it's not only you are able to use multiple other services as a connector, but you can use your current services. You do not need to change that. So it's not expensive and time consuming and drawn out into a 10 months project. It become a 3-4 months project.
No, makes sense.
Speak about earlier.
And I think it's like you mentioned about, you gave the advice of modularity, right? In terms of how you build the Workato recipes. I think you can take that to the next level across your applications as well. You can almost think of like you have a modular set of capabilities that you do by purchasing certain applications in your IT organization, and then you can now think of modular pieces. You don't have to change them. They're there, but you can tap into them and you can create new processes reusing your existing application. I think that's what, and so I think some people call it the composite applications or composite processes, because you're reusing what's there. You don't have to build something in another silo on its own. I think that's key. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, look, I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's an opportunity to automate the high volume processes, reduce manual steps. There's opportunity to catch all the exceptions or the intent and then do something special. There's opportunity to rationalize across all your capabilities in terms of your applications. So it's really interesting. So tell me a little bit. I mean, you showed the book quickly, but maybe wrapping up this conversation with the different mindsets. I mean, I think we talked a lot about process mindset. I think we covered that one. There's the growth mindset. There's the scale mindset. I think we talked about that one as well. But tell me a little bit, like, what resonated specifically for you in your position as the head of employee experience and services at Broadcom. What do you still remember from the book? What really resonated?
Embrace the future. You cannot stop technology. It's coming no matter what you do. You have to embrace this. And this is the new way of operations, right? It is, what do you call that? Times are changing. People are looking at speed and efficiency and scalability, right? And there's no way you can stop it, Markus. So, the idea of embracing this, and you can actually do, what do you call that? Extraordinary things with it if you embrace the technology.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. I mean, I think this is actually a really good moment to actually finish off on it. It's so profound. Really, it really is. And I think Broadcom and what you've done also with Workato is exemplary. I mean, you embraced it. I think you embraced it the right way in small, digestible steps. I think that's the Broadcom way to do it. But it's really inspiring to see how you embraced it in the beginning, how you're embracing it now together with the LLMs, which is the next step. So it'll be fun to watch what you're going to do in 2-3 years in a
Maybe
new
we'll
way.
have another chat together in 2-3 years.
We should. I mean, the funny thing is, like, a lot of people now talk about, so what's Gen AI, and should we be worried? Are we maybe gonna lose our job, and all of those things? And just in the spirit of what you just said, one other customer told me, he says, like, Markus, we can talk about this all day long.
We can.
He said, I can tell you one definite way how you're gonna lose your job is if you don't embrace the LLMs. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Everything else we'll see, and we have to go for the ride. But if you don't embrace it, then you lost.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with him fully.
Well, Stanley, it's been a pleasure. I think it's very educational. Also, I think the audience learned a lot, and I want to thank you for everything you've done with Workato and for spending the time here with me. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Markus.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you like what you heard, we do have a special offer for you. If you share this or any other episode of the podcast on LinkedIn with the hashtag TNAM for the new automation mindset, that's TNAM, our team will reach out to you and make sure you get a free hardcover copy of the book by our Workato CBO, Vijay Tella. Please make sure to rate today's episode, leave us a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to the show so you will never miss an episode. I'll see you next time.